Hello, everybody. Weeb here, and welcome back to the Otaku Overload podcast, episode 41. And yeah, building off of what I said last week, I think we are spoiled with so much stuff that is coming out right now. I definitely watched like a whole batch of new things, plus stuff that I had watched, mentioned previously. And as me and Legend of Jonathan were putting together this podcast, we're talking about like, oh yeah, doesn't like this come out? Doesn't that come out like really soon? So like it just feels like we're like in a season of a lot of stuff, which is actually pretty cool, honestly. And we're gonna talk about some of that stuff, or at least I'll talk about some of that stuff. But yeah, that aside, welcome to the podcast. I hope you guys are excited. You guys are in for another good episode. I think we have some good stuff to talk about. And yeah, my co-host, Legend of Jonathan, is here. How are you doing, Legend of Jonathan?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I am doing good. And yeah, I think we have some good stuff to talk about. I'm actually pretty excited to discuss some things. But, before we get to me, of course, I would like to let you go first. So if you're ready, take it away. What have you been up to?
I haven't really been up to much because of school, but ever since after beating Pikmin 4, I've been trying to catch up with some stuff and try to like play some new things. Because I had been hanging out with some friends, like playing online with some friends, I ended up like revisiting kind of like the Epic Games stuff because I have Epic Games launcher on my PC. And so I downloaded Fall Guys and I played some Fall Guys, which was pretty cool.
Nice.
At first it wasn't working for some reason. It was like some weird dumb like thing where like it was just like buggy. It had to reinstall and install some weird stuff. But it's been pretty fun. I had played it back when it actually came out a few years back.
Oh yeah, me
And
too. I think the last I saw, I think I played maybe like season. It was like 2 or 3. It was like a long time ago that I remember I played it.
That's what I'm saying. Like same thing. It was around there, like at the earlier like seasons I had played, and same thing. I didn't really touch it for years because I had moved on to other games, and then like I wasn't really into like those like online games, at that time. And I had been playing Fall Guys, and I think it's pretty fun. Same. It's still kind of the same, to be honest. There's nothing. I mean, there's a lot that has changed. It's just I don't really notice the stuff because it's kind of like the same stuff from like the earlier seasons, like the same game modes and everything. But
Is there
obviously,
is there at least like different mini games or?
I know that like as of currently, I think the only thing they have started to change is like the skins mostly. To be honest, I think it's mostly the skins,
Oh
and
really? Because I can
maybe like the
understand
layout.
that. Yeah, because I understand that, but you would think that so many like time later, you think they'd have all sorts of different mini games and stuff.
Yeah, like mini games, I'm not sure, but I think like maybe the main levels too. I think they just make them so they expand them to be a bit bigger and
Hmm. Hmm.
maybe add like different levels to each little category of level types. And that's kind of it. That's pretty much
Interesting.
it. It's like the same exact like five different levels that it automatically chooses from. And then from there it's just like, oh yeah, because it's this type of like how do you call it? It's this type of like game mode. It's like from here you just have to like let's say yeah you could touch the crown. It would be like a new level where you have to go touch the crown or something. It's like stuff like that
Hmm.
where they just add stuff like that. um but yeah, it's like same thing. It's just I'm barely getting into it, so I'm still like trying to like I'm just getting reintroduced into it. And then yeah, that was like the first thing I did a part of my week. And then the second thing I did was I downloaded a game that I am somewhat familiar with. And I say somewhat because I've seen it here and there. I've heard that's pretty good, but I wasn't really interested in it. But because it was on the Epic Game Launcher and it was free, I downloaded it.
Hmm.
I decided to download Cave Story Plus, and it's pretty good. But same thing, I haven't really played much of it. I barely had actually even started it. But from what it seems so far, because this is extremely like early on in the game, like this is like 10 minutes in, the implication is that our character, for some reason, our main playable character that doesn't have a name so far, they're like a robot, I guess. And then like you run into a person underground because for some reason underground, and this person, I guess they're like a human. They say, "Oh, it's very uncommon to seeing your kind around," or something like that. And then like your character, I guess they don't know what like the person's talking about, and they're like, "What? You don't know what I'm talking about? Oh, you must have lost your memories. Where's your little blonde friend at?" or something like that. And so it's like the implication is that you were with
Mm.
someone at one point, and like same thing, like you're just navigating this weird little labyrinth of sorts. And the gameplay's kind of like Metroidvania, where it's like the big map where you travel around and everything. And then like you also like your main weapon's like a gun, and you can switch between different weapons and stuff. Like
Oh
it's like
wow,
it's like Metroidvania basically.
that's
And
cool.
then so far the game's actually been kind of difficult, honestly. It's been pretty difficult. I even put it on the easiest mode because it recommends that if you're a first time player, you put it on easy mode.
Mm.
Even with easy mode, it's still pretty difficult.
Dang, that's not crazy.
Hmm. And
That's pretty cool.
honestly, for my week, that really was what I mostly did. It was just those two things because same thing. I'm just trying to catch up with some stuff. I didn't really have much time because of like schoolwork and stuff. And I think soon I will be able to catch up with Evangelion. I'll say that. I definitely know that for sure.
Nice. Okay, well that makes sense. That's cool. That's cool.
Hmm.
I got you. So that's it for your week then.
Yeah.
Alrighty, cool, cool, cool. For me, as I kind of mentioned prior, I've just been watching all sorts of stuff. There's stuff that I had mentioned, in previous weeks that I'm still watching. I really wish I could talk about it. One of them for sure is the Adventure Time Fiona and Cake. That's still going. I'm really enjoying it. But we had said we're gonna wait until it's all done to kind of give like a recap of it. So, it has to wait.
Hmm.
Besides that, there's also, some anime from this season that I've been watching, and same thing. I'll just, give kind of like a recap and my little review of them when those are done. When it comes to new things, one of the things that I watched was that they had announced it during one of the Pokemon Directs. I think it might have been the last one. I think it was probably that last one where I said that it was really boring, but they did talk about some new project, which seemed kind of cool. And one of the
Yeah.
things that they announced that the first episode is out now. It's called Pokemon Paldean Wins.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, they had announced that the last one, yeah.
Yeah, that's where it was. Yeah.
Hmm.
And that is based on, the Paldea region of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And it's not part of like, the main series, it's like its own thing. And yeah, it's a shame
Mm,
that
yeah.
apparently it's only going to be like 4 episodes because like I think they're only each like 10 minutes, so it's not very much. But I really like style, and I like kind of like it's kind of hard to explain. Like basically, like if you look at the art and if you look at like the promotional stuff, there's 3 different characters, and they each seem to be part of that academy. They're wearing the orangish pants, so I'm guessing it's supposed to be another part of the what's the name of the academy? Not Uva. It's when it's the red. What's the opposite? I can't remember what the academy's called. But that Pokemon Academy they go to, where it's
Hmm.
either Uva, which is a grape, or the opposite. Was it just orange? Maybe I forget what it's. I always can't remember off the top of my head. I feel like so lame for not remembering. Point is, it looks like they're part of like the reddish orange one or whatever. And yeah, each of them has a starter. So the girl, her name is O'Hara, and she has the Fuecoco. The kid whose name is Homa, he has the Quaxley, and the kid called Aliquis, he has the kind of funny. He doesn't have like the first evolution, of the starter. He actually has the Meowscara or whatever you call it. Like
Oh
it's already
wow.
fully evolved, which is kind of different. Yeah. But basically, it looks like they're kind of like the focus of it, and they're obviously in the academy. And yeah, like the style, like the animation's really nice, really good music and like lighting and stuff like that. Like, you can tell like it's very like high budget on purpose. I guess because it's only like 4 episodes, right? And it's made by
Hmm.
Wit Studio, who's made some really good stuff. And yeah, like the first episode was really interesting because they don't really tell you much. It's not like very like introductory and handholdy. It's kind of like here's a story in the middle of like just the story, if that makes sense, and you kind of just have to like go with it. So like the first episode just focuses on Ohara, that what you can kind of piece together is that she is part of the I think it's like the little orchestra or band of the school, and she plays the flute. But it's kind of like told out of order and all weird, where they don't really like focus on stuff. But something about you kind of piece together that she's like in the mountains and she's running away from her duties because she doesn't like being part of like the orchestra or whatever you call it, symphony thing, because her dad is like the conductor, and there might be some like problems at home because there's like a scene where it shows like some like a house where stuff's like all over the floor and stuff, and she's just hugging 𝐦𝐴𝐤𝐿 or whatever, which is like kind of weird. It's like, what's her home situation? I'm not really sure. And she mentions like I said, she's trying to run away from her duties because there's like some tension with her dad or whatever, which is like really weird. And basically, you know how in the game, after like a year of learning, they get to go look for like their treasure or whatever, right? Where they like wander around and explore.
Yeah.
So she uses her excuse, oh, I'm gonna look for my treasure. She's out like in the icy mountains. And while she's out there, she kind of like tries to ditch her flute. Like it shows that she looks like drops it, like she doesn't want to like you know have it anymore. And it shows that I guess when you like kind of like present day, because like some of it was like flashbacks, I guess it's in kind of a weird order. Basically, she wakes up from her tent and 𝐦𝐴𝐤𝐿's gone. She doesn't know where it is. Arvin, who you know is the guy in the games, that he is the one that's trying to look for the Titan Pokemon so he can get like the different ingredients or whatever. Arvin shows up and he starts getting attacked by like a huge Pokemon. I forget what it's called, honestly, but it's like a huge snow, you know, Pokemon. Looks kind of like a big old kind of like whale thing. I forget what it's called.
I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, but he starts getting attacked by one of those, and she's like all like, "Oh man, what am I supposed to do?" or whatever. Because I guess she knows if she used her flute, I guess she could like play music to like calm it, but she doesn't have it. And like Ash is freaking out and feeling bad about like running away from her duties, and she's remembering how she ran away and you know the issues with her dad and all that stuff. 𝐦𝐴𝐤𝐿 actually like you can hear in the distance, it's like holding a part like the middle part of her flute in its mouth. And it's actually all goofy, just like the one from Horizons, and it's all happy, like marching towards her with like the little flute part. So she uses that little flute part to play like some music, and it calms down like that whale Pokemon. And then it like leaves with like its children or whatever. And then Arvin kind of like thanks her or whatever, and that's when he asks her about like, oh, you play the flute or whatever, and you know, she kind of spills a little bit about like the whole thing with her dad or whatever. He's like, you don't really get along with your father, do you? This and that. And he's like, well, thanks, you know, thanks for the help. And he like keeps like on his journey. And then I guess that kind of like helped her regain her confidence in like the instrument, I guess, or something. And so it says like, come on, 𝐦𝐴𝐤𝐿, let's get back to the academy or whatever. So I guess it's kind of weird because they don't really tell you anything. So you kind of have to piece together, you know, and like
Yeah,
it's kind of
really
told
weird.
Yeah, it's kind of told out of order, which is kind of interesting. But I don't know, it's kind of what made it interesting. Like the direction was like really good, lighting, music, visuals are nice. Kind of has like a story where it's like dealing with something like, you know, kind of you could say like a little more on the heavy side, you know, and it's kind of not really hand holding you about anything, which is kind of cool. And I don't know. I liked it. It was interesting. And I like that, yeah, like Arvin shows up. You know, he's from the games. Nimona, you can see her in the background when they're looking out a window, that she is challenging some like younger students. You know, she's saying she's going to battle them. That was fun that we got to see Nimona. And then director 𝐜𝐴𝐤𝐿, the old guy, he basically is there when like he asked the other two students, I guess, to do like a recording to like help promote like the school. And that's when Ohara says that she's going to leave. And they're kind of asking her where she's going. So you see a little bit of director 𝐜𝐴𝐿 as well. So
Cool.
yeah, kind of weird. But it's supposed to, I guess, just be like a little snapshot of like, here's like the lives of some of the students. And like I said, it's kind of like in media res where they don't really introduce you to them or anything. It's just kind of like, hey, this is what it's like being part of the school. You know, here's like just a look into the world, you know, I guess. And it felt like very like, it feels like it's a lived in world where like all this stuff is happening, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
So I liked it. It was interesting. It was cool. And yeah, like I said, the only thing is that it's only going to be 4 episodes, so it's going to be really short. So it feels like it's not really meant to like really follow like much of a story. It seems like it's just like a little snapshot of, like I said, here's a look at some of the students and what they deal with being part of the school, I guess, you know?
Yeah, it's like the other web series before it, like the one I made for Galar as well. That
Yeah, there
one
we
same
go.
way. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh, he's just like it feels like this is just Twilight Wind or Twilight Wings.
I think it was Wings. Yeah, I think it was Giant
Yeah,
Wings. Yeah.
Twilight Wings, but instead it's like the Paldean people. And I was like, that's what it kind of feels like. But that one at least you can kind of piece the stuff more easily. This one felt a little bit more like it felt like everything was all over the place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, as I'm saying, it was kind of funny because it starts with like her here and there, and they don't like explicitly say anything, so you kind of got to piece together,
Hmm.
certain stuff. But like I said, I still liked it. I still thought it was interesting, and
Yeah,
it felt very like, oh, that was different. I enjoyed it. It felt like more like mature, more ambitious, I guess, with like the art, with the direction and the art and stuff. So it was cool.
that's pretty cool. Oh, I know you were right about the academy thing. It's Naranja Academy or Uva Academy.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be orange and grape because of the colors. There we
Hmm.
go. Yeah,
Hmm.
I didn't remember what the other one
Yeah,
was called. I'm like, whatever. But there we go. Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, thanks for that. Then another thing I watched is this one caught me by surprise because I had heard a long time ago. I think I did. I might have even mentioned it in something. I don't know if it was like a podcast episode or what. That they were gonna make a Tiny Toons like a reboot thing. I feel like I talked about it
Hmm.
somewhere on the channel. And it was crazy because Ned mentioned it, and then even along the way, kind of talked about like some of the voice cast, some of like the changes they were gonna make, whatever. But then like it was kind of like, okay, but when's it coming out? I feel like I hadn't really heard anything, and then out of nowhere, I saw that it had dropped on Max, and it's like, oh, it's out. Okay, let's check it out, I guess, because I'm like that kind of came out of nowhere, but I have some time, so let's check it out. And yeah, the reboot, it's called Tiny Toons Looniversity. And I really don't know what to say about it. It's very, I wouldn't say it's bad, but I wouldn't really say it's like great either. It's just
It's
very,
meh.
it's just very different. It's very, very strange. Okay. Because the original Tiny Toons, Tiny Toons Adventures. The whole point
Hmm.
is that I guess to come off of the whole Looney Tunes thing, it's like, hey, let's make like a new generation of like Looney Tunes, but they're kids, and so that's where you get you kind of see that like all these characters are based on like older characters, like Buster and Babs. They're supposed to be like the two halves of Bugs Bunny, right? Like he's kind of like the cool, more like suave, charming part of Bugs Bunny, and she's like the more like zany, crazy part of it. And then Plucky
Hmm.
Duck, obviously, he's Donald Duck. I mean Donald, he's Daffy Duck,
Oh my
right?
God.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then Hamilton Pig or whatever, he's supposed to be Porky Pig, and like everyone has like a clear, equivalent, right?
Hmm.
And the thing about Tiny Toons Adventures is that it was, let's say an episode supposed to be like 20 minutes, but it was a series of like shorts put together, like 3 shorts, right?
Hmm.
And the thing about it is that it felt a lot at times like it was supposed to be almost like a kid's version of SNL, Saturday Night Live. Because they were like always parodying stuff. Like that was kind of their thing. You know what I mean? Like they were always like parodying
Hmm.
different things, making fun of different pop culture references, that sort of thing. And yeah, it's not to say they didn't have like their own like original stuff too, or like, oh, in this one, I don't know, there's some I'm trying to remember honestly these plot lines. Like I know there's one where they're supposed to like go to prom at school, right? Another
Hmm.
one where like I think they are trying to put on like some they're having like some competition with like a different school or something. I can't remember at the moment. Honestly, it's been a while. But the point is, like, they would have their original stuff, but a big part of it was like the parodies, like I said. And like I said, it was
Hmm.
like short segments all put together. And sometimes they would have like a theme of like what the segments would be. This one is very different because they said it was gonna be about them like in school. And sure enough, because in the first one, supposedly they did attend, the Acme Lou university or whatever, so they could like learn how to be Toons. But it wasn't like that was kind of like a background thing. It wasn't all about that. That wasn't like the main focus. And here, them being in the university or whatever, that is the main focus. Like here, it's more where like every episode is its own. There's I think 10 episodes is what it ended up being, and each episode is literally 20 minutes of like one story, and it's them dealing with something school related. So like the whole first episode is about them moving in and like meeting like their dorm mates and stuff and getting used to like the school life. And there's like another episode that's all about them being in a prank war with like a different, school. And then another one is about a place that they like to hang out and how it's going to get like destroyed. A place that they hang out, like a chill spot, it's going to get destroyed. And it's all about, I have like a nemesis now. I need to like take them down to like save that chill spot. And like another one is about, another one is all about like, like they have like electives that they're choosing like at the university and like them, doing those activities and stuff. So like every episode has to do with the school, right?
Yeah.
And so like as I'm saying, it's not that it's bad, but necessarily, because I thought there was like some pretty fun stuff, a lot of definitely Looney Tunes gags and cartooniness and all sorts of, stuff like that. But it's just so different because like think about how what I've said like the other thing was and what I'm saying this one is. And the characters are like really different too. Because like for instance, like one of the biggest changes that I still don't really know why they went there. It's so weird. In the original, the whole point is that Babs and Buster, they're like childhood friends, and every so often, there's even kind of like a little bit of a romance between them or whatever, right? And here, for some reason, they're like, no, they're twins.
That does kind of destroy the whole, yeah.
And it's like kind of weird because that's the whole point that in the original, because they were like best friend, childhood friends, best friends, then they always kind of had each other's backs. But at the same time, sometimes there was like a little rivalry between them. They didn't always have to be on the same page. And then, sometimes there's a little bit of a romance sort of thing. So if you want to parody something, they were like the go-to like couple, right? Like to like, and like I don't know, like there was like so much you could do with those characters that way. But here they're just like twins, which is like really weird. I don't know why they went there. And so it's like that's a weird choice. And then Plucky, basically he's the same. He's, like over the top. He wants the spotlight, whatever. But then like Hamilton, it's like, oh, he's actually like the son of a famous like Toon, pig lady that she's like a comedian or whatever. And so it's all about him being worried about like living in her shadow and being good enough, and how he wants to actually like maybe not be a Toon. He wants to be like a doctor. So he has like this whole character arc about if he wants to be a Toon or not, that sort of thing.
Right.
And then the other really big main character is Babs's roommate, who's Sweetie Bird, who's like the little bird supposed to be like Tweety, but it's like this like this little bird, and she's kind of like I don't know, like I don't know what would you say like her archetype is, maybe like an alt chick, like kind of rocker. I don't know what you would like really call her or whatever, but it's kind of weird because like okay, that's like your main five they really focus on, and then all the other characters are kind of in the background. And I feel like and in the original, I feel like it was more of an ensemble cast where you would see more of the characters. And here it's like this is like the main five they focus on, and sometimes you kind of see the other characters.
Yeah, that is weird.
So like that's really weird.
Especially because the other one literally was trying to be like, oh, these are like the Looney Tunes. And if you know the Looney Tunes, the whole point is, even if it's like the people that you kind of put at the front, everyone usually gets their spotlight as like the main character in a sense. Like,
So
I'm
saying because there's different segments, there's different things to parody, that sort of thing. And that's not to say their characters don't have little moments here and there, but they're definitely like supporting characters for sure, which is weird. Like they're like really in the background.
Yeah, that's really, really weird. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was really weird. So like I said, I don't know. I'm kind of mixed. Like it's not that it was bad. I think it's like fun for what it is, but what it is just feels really different. Like it feels like it's like a whole other thing where it's like, I don't know, why didn't you just have like different characters then? But then I get it. It's like we haven't used the Tiny Toon characters in a while, so let's put them in those roles because I get it. It would be weird to make another batch of new characters, like that would be weird. But it's kind of weird because like these characters, the way you're using them, it almost feels like a totally different thing. Anyway,
Hmm.
so it's
Yeah.
really strange. Like I'm trying to think if there's anything that's ever really done that. I want to say there's examples of things that have done that where they just like totally like grab the characters and put them in a different setting. Like it has nothing to do with it. Like I feel like they've done it, but I just can't think of anything off the top of my head. But it just feels so weird because it's like it's not the characters we know from before, but they kind of are. So it's kind of like I said, like why don't you just like create new characters then? But then I get it because it'd be weird to create all these new characters again. That might just sound like a copy of a copy, but like I don't know. It's just so weird to explain.
Well,
Like it makes no sense, honestly.
you know what? You know what I want to say, but then at the same time, it might not work out as an example. Um, Teen Titans Go, because they're not exactly like the way like in the comics or even in the old cartoon the way they act. They try to like make them into more of like they change them to be more silly, basically in a sense. And then like some of the characters they would change them and be like how do you call it? Like they were like nothing compared to like what they were before. You know what I mean? Or now?
See, that's kind of closer to what I'm thinking about, but even then, no, because the whole point of Teen Titans, it's just like, oh, an alternate universe where they're just like their worst selves.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, yeah,
Because
yeah.
because based on how we have seen them interact with like, the original Titans, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? So we know that like the other Titans are still out there. There's just like an alternate universe where they're kind of like their worst selves. Like it's purposely, hey, let's take these five characters and kind of like dial up like the craziest part of them. You know what I mean? So it's like
Hmm.
yeah, so it's closer to what I'm talking about, but not quite. Like I feel like they've done something before. I swear I've seen it somewhere where they grab characters, put them like in a totally different thing. It just doesn't feel the same. I feel like they've done it. Like I said, I just off the top of my head can't think of it. But it's really weird to explain because it's like it's the same characters, but it's not. And like, why not just make new characters then? But at the same time, I get it because, like I said, maybe a copy of a copy. But then it's like I don't know. It's like so weird. Like I said, it's not even the show's bad. Like it has some pretty. I thought it had some fun moments. It had some fun gags here and there. A lot of, like I said, that Looney Tunes, zaniness and stuff. But it's just weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really strange. So I don't know. I feel kind of mixed about it. Like I said, like it's not bad. I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, it was terrible. But it wasn't like great either. I'm just like very mixed on it. Like I almost wish it could have been like bad, so I can just say, oh, they ruined something again, screw this show or whatever. But it wasn't even like terrible. Like it was fine for what it was, but it just doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like a
A
reboot.
successor.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a reboot. It feels like a whole like reimagining totally different thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know. It's just like so strange.
It sounds very awkward. Yeah, it sounds really weird.
Yeah, I'm saying I feel like there was something at some point that gave me like the same feeling, but I just can't think of it at the moment. So that's kind of what's bothering me too. But I don't know. It's whatever. The point is, it's out there. I don't know. I think it's fine. Like I said, it's not bad. It's not really good. It's just kind of in the middle, and it's just like a really weird choice. I don't know. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Finally, I watched something else that luckily, since we're talking about weird like adaptation choices and all that, I would say that this is one where luckily it went really well and I was pleasantly surprised and I had a lot of fun with it. And I am, of course, talking about the One Piece live action series on Netflix.
Yo, nice.
Yeah, so I had said last week I was gonna try to watch it, and sure enough, I did. And yeah, I thought it was really fun. Like that's probably not gonna be a surprise if you look it up. I think just about everybody everywhere is giving it a lot of credit. And they're saying it's really good, that's a lot of fun, that sort of thing. It's not like I'm like the only one saying it. Like it's kind of like a pretty common thing that people are saying that they like it and enjoy it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just really good, honestly. And it's not perfect. There is some adaptation choices that are kind of weird, some characterization, maybe it's like, maybe the visuals don't always look the best, some stuff like that, right? But
Yeah.
overall, I thought it was really good and I really enjoyed it. Like the acting is really good. A lot of people have pointed out that like the guy who plays Luffy, I'm trying to look at his name right here so I can say his name. I don't know how you pronounce it. I think it's yeah, I think it's 𝐦𝐚𝐧�. I think that's how you say his name, 𝐦𝐚𝐧�.
Hmm.
It's like he is Luffy, honestly.
Yeah,
Like
he literally is.
he
Yeah.
like really portrays him really well. And then like I, because I was like enjoying the show and stuff. I enjoyed the show and stuff, so I kind of looked at some of like behind the scenes stuff that I had really missed, some of that stuff because I'm like, oh, I didn't really want to get spoiled or whatever, so I didn't really check any of that out. So going back, like yeah, even behind the scenes stuff, but it's like you could tell he must really like and be a fan of One Piece because he feels like he really embodies Luffy and his like
Hmm.
character and stuff. Like it's just crazy. Like he really embodies Luffy really good. Um, and yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where like it's crazy because like Luffy, guy who plays Luffy probably stand out, but everyone does a really good job. Like not only do they do a really good job too, but I was even like I said once again looking at some of the behind the scenes, kind of details and stuff. But man, it's like everybody really wanted to embody their characters. Because for instance, guy who plays Luffy, I believe it was him, unless I'm mistaken. If I'm mistaken, I apologize. But I think his thing is that he says that he really loves One Piece. And there was like a thing where he says, like, I want everyone and their grandma to know like what One Piece is. Like he wants it to be like that widespread. So he like
Hmm.
really wants people to like get into One Piece. Like that's his thing. You can tell he loves it. And then for like Nami, apparently she's like same thing. She's like a huge like weeb. She's really into like bunch of anime and stuff. And then when she was younger, she even like used to like love like maps and like pretend she was like a navigator and stuff. So it's like, perfect to play the character, right? And
Yeah.
then the guy who plays Zoro, he is actually this like pretty good Japanese actor that he's already done like a lot of other like anime adaptations and like a lot of like stunt work and stuff, like martial arts and stuff. And
Yeah.
so not only has he been training for this like basically this whole time, but apparently like, and the whole thing about Zoro is that he like, has the three swords, one in each hand and one in his mouth. Like the dude literally trained for just the audition to properly have the sword in his mouth. Like he trained his jaw muscles so
That's
he
so
could do it
cool.
right. Yes, he could do it right. I'm like,
Yeah.
that is cool. And then the guy who plays Usopp, I don't know, like same thing. He's just like really into the character. He just like does like a really good job of being like a coward, but like really brave and stuff. And like he does a great job. I don't remember if there's any background thing for him. I can't remember at the moment. The guy who plays Sanji actually learned to like cook
Hmm.
and
I know that for sure.
do all the
Yeah.
fighting so that he could like properly portray Sanji, which is really cool. So like there's scenes of him, like practicing all like the kickboxing and stuff, and he's actually cooking for like the cast and stuff backstage,
Hmm.
so he could actually portray Sanji. So that's super cool.
Hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. Like it really feels like a lot of love was put into this, and like everyone who's involved wanted it to work. And that's part of what
Hmm.
makes it work. That even when there's some lines that are kind of like goofy, or like even parts where like it's kind of like I don't know, like I can get into it in a moment. I feel like like the actors really help sell it. You know what I mean? Like, you can tell they really care and want it to work. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah. So the acting is great. I think the characters they're all really really good. It's crazy because they built actual sets, like actual like ships and stuff. So I think the visuals look pretty good most of the time. Like they really built like the Going Merry, it's an actual ship that they're using, and like they built actual sets to make all this like come true. So I think that's really well done. The action's really good, as I was saying earlier. Like the dude who's Sanji learned how to actually, fight with kicks. The guy who plays Zoro, he's been doing like stunt work and martial arts and sword stuff for years now. And yeah, apparently, obviously not everything, because obviously there's always like stunt people, right? But it seems like
Yeah.
for a majority of it, it's the actual actors actually trying to do the action themselves, like as much as they could, which is really crazy too. So like that's really cool.
Hmm.
So I thought the action was pretty good. It's just as like they really sell the anime ness of it, because you know how anime is like all over the place with the fighting and stuff. Like they really sell it. Like they're not afraid to like get crazy with like the moves and like I don't know, like there's a part where freaking it's not really a spoiler if you've watched know anything about One Piece, but the part where Zoro is fighting Mihawk, who's supposed to be like the world's greatest swordsman, like at when he fights him at that moment, he fights him, and like it's just as over the top as anime should be, where Zoro's fighting with like 3 swords or at least 2 for most of the time, and then the dude is like, "Nah, you're not worthy of my like giant ass like cross sword on his back." So he has like a little tiny blade he's using, and he's like holding him off with a little tiny blade. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So action's good, acting was good, all the sets and visuals and costumes and stuff were really good. Obviously they changed some stuff up. You know, they're not going to follow the exact thing of the manga because, you know, I guess they want to, you know, condense it, and they want to, you know, move stuff around so it makes more sense with what they're working for and, you know, what they're going for and, you know, that sort of thing. But I still thought that it still worked really well, even without changes. So I don't know. I can talk about it forever, but I would say go look at someone who does an actual review of like every episode or the whole season. All I'll say, so it doesn't last too long, is that I thought it was really good. And I think it's cool that, yeah, like they weren't afraid to make it, you know, silly. They weren't afraid to make it over the top and all its anime glory. You know, like they really stuck to like the feeling of the story and the source material.
Of what One Piece is, yeah.
Yeah, so it was pretty good. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. And like I said, even with all the changes and stuff, which are kind of like, you know, I can see like why they make changes to like, you know, give some characters, you know, more screen time or to like, you know, just make things make more sense. And you know, hindsight's 2020. So obviously when he was creating it, you know, there's stuff that wasn't introduced at that time. But now that, you know, obviously the series is so far along, you can tell there's some stuff that Oda probably told them, like, oh, in this part, why don't you like make a reference to this thing that, you know, in the manga wouldn't have came out until like years later. But for the story they're telling now, it's like, oh yeah, why don't we like give a little hint towards this thing or that thing, you know? So that's pretty cool. I think it works really well, you know?
Yeah, I think that's super cool.
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's really good. I hope it gets a second season. And I don't know, the crappy thing is that, you know, Netflix really likes to cancel things. But let's see how far this gets, because it'd be really cool to see how far they get. Like, I kind of doubt they would have, you know, adapt everything because, like, you know, there's just so much to tell of One Piece. But it'd be cool to see how far they get. You know what I mean? It would be fun. I would really like to see more of it. So I had fun with it, and I recommend it. You know?
No, man, we have to wait until 50 something for Gear 5 live action.
Oh my god,
Luffy.
Oh my god, I don't even know how they would like freaking.
And then that's what I'm saying. Wait that long just for that.
Jeez, I don't even know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The point is, I had fun. I recommend it. I say check it out. And yeah, as I had read in that article last week, and as I'm saying, you know, a lot of people I had heard, yeah, Netflix finally broke its little curse of crappy live action adaptations. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Finally.
good to hear. Good to hear. Glad it's doing well. And like I said, I hope for more. So there you go.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys, that is it for my week. Yeah, a lot of fun. I really had fun with One Piece. Had fun with the Pokemon thing, and Toons Looniversity was all right. I'll just leave it at that. But like I said, we're spoiled for things to watch. There's already some other things that are coming out like really soon. So it feels like, damn, I barely get through some stuff, and there's like just more waiting. So it's pretty cool, you know. Moving on to the news stories. They should mostly be pretty short. I think, you know, most of them are kind of just saying like, hey, here's the thing. You know, I mean, I don't think any of them go too deep. So, case in point, going to the first story, as the title of the article states, Stray animated adaptation in development. So, for anyone's like, what's Stray? That sounds familiar. I'm not talking about the movie with the dogs. That's Strays. That's the R-rated movie. It's all raunchy with the dogs. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, if anyone remembers from a couple years back or whatever, there was the game Stray, where you play as a cat that is in a world of robots and stuff. It has like a little backpack. That's what I'm talking about. So if you read the news story, like I said, not really much information at the moment. All it really says is that there is an animated adaptation in development. It's being made by Annapurna. Did I say it? Animation. Which I think the people who made the game, I think it was also Annapurna Productions, wasn't it? Isn't that like the studio that made the game? Annapurna? Yeah, Annapurna Interactive. So I guess they also have an animation studio. So they're working on an adaptation of Stray. And all it really says is that the director and producer of Nimona, that they've joined the animation team. And I guess they're going to be helping to bring it to life. So that's kind of cool.
Yo, awesome.
Yeah, so that's all it really says.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's all it really says. Unfortunately, there's not really much information about the anime adaptation itself. All it's really saying is like, hey, here it is, in development, and like here's kind of the people who are like working on it. And mostly talks about them and about like the studio and stuff. But I think that's pretty cool because the game is pretty short and it's pretty straightforward. So I think as, an animated thing, I think that would work. I think that could be fun. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And I really look forward to whenever that comes out because, I think that depending on what style they use too, because if it's by the people who made Nimona and maybe they want to bring like a certain, aesthetic to it or whatever, I could see that being pretty cool, honestly,
Yeah.
So that's it. Like I said, these are probably going to be a breeze to get through. Second news story, as the title states, it says Google starts testing instantly playable online games on YouTube.
Oh, Lord.
So if you remember, that was the whole thing with Stadia. Remember, one of the promises of Stadia that never ended up happening is that supposedly when you were, had your when you were subscribed to Stadia, I guess, and you had like your controller sitting next to you, supposedly it was like, oh, if you're watching your favorite streamer and they're playing a game, right? Supposedly there was going to be a button on the controller that you could press, and then you would automatically be able to start, like, you would be able to jump over to whatever they were playing, right? So just as an example, I think the idea was supposed to be like, oh, you're watching your favorite streamer and they're playing. I think what they had kind of said at the time was, oh, they're playing like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, right? Let me just hit like the button on my controller, and then you could automatically jump into your own game of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So it's kind of like almost like a cross promotion sort of like, hey, check it out now or whatever. I think that's how it's supposed to work. As everyone knows, though, that never happened. Google Stadia is dead. It didn't really go anywhere. But I guess they're still trying to at least like salvage that idea or whatever. And so it says, the gist of Google's new initiative, known as Playables, is that it'll enable users to instantly play online games via YouTube's website or iOS and Android apps. And it says that the only game they really have in mind right now, it says it's only for a limited number of users, and the only game they're really testing that out with right now is called Stack Bounce, which is like a casual. It says right here, a casual arcade game. So it's kind of like a little honestly, it's like a little phone game. Honestly, it's like really casual. But I guess they're starting. They have to start somewhere, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll have to see how this goes because I still don't really get like the logistics of it. Like I can understand maybe like free apps, right? And like little like basic games, but I still don't really get how it would work for like AAA titles, for instance. Like the example they gave of like Assassin's Creed. It's like, okay, I'm gonna start playing it because I saw a streamer playing it and I'm interested in it. But like, it's a AAA game. Like, is it only certain games that are like free for some reason? Would you only be able to play like a demo and then like if you like it, if you like it, then you purchase the whole game?
Yeah.
Do you purchase it first and then you how does it work? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that does actually make me question that too, because that'd be kind of weird to just be like, oh yeah, Markiplier. That's like an example.
Yeah,
He's playing like, I don't even know, FNAF 2000 and something. And then I'm like, man, that game looks so cool. Let me download it. And it's like, but like, do I just download it for free by that point? Or am I going to like play just a demo? and then at the end they're gonna be like, yeah, no, now you have to buy it. You know what I mean? Or like, that is where it gets kind of interesting. Of okay, like how's it gonna work?
Yeah, that's something I don't think they ever really explained before. And now that, it's totally different because it's going to be part of like YouTube or whatever. I don't really know what they're doing. It just sounds weird. It's one of those things where, like, if it ever takes off, I guess maybe they'll explain it as they go, I guess. Because as of right now, I feel like they're not really
Yeah,
explaining it. They're just trying to hype up the idea of it. And we saw how Stadia went. So we'll have to wait and see if this even takes off, I guess.
yeah,
Because it's like, once again, like the concept sounds good. Same thing with Stadia. The concept sounded good, but it's just one of those things that didn't really work because it was like kind of underdeveloped. You know what I mean?
yeah. They didn't go through with most of the stuff they kept saying they were gonna do.
Yeah. Next up, jumping to our third news story. Title says Castlevania Nocturne animated spin-off series unveils main trailer. Because if you remember, a while back, we talked about like it was like a teaser trailer where it kind of just shows Richter Belmont. Kind of just shows like just a basic look at him. And I think we hear some like dialogue and we kind of got the premise where it's like, oh, it's gonna take place during the French Revolution, and it's all about Richter Belmont, who's like a descendant of Trevor and Sypha or whatever, and that's kind of all the information we got. It's him
Mm-hmm.
fighting vampires during the French Revolution, and that was kind of it. Here they show us more, which is kind of funny because despite being the main trailer, I feel like it still doesn't really tell us much. It still feels almost teasery, where it's like, okay, we see Richter, we see a lot of people with him, so it feels like he has like a squad of people helping him that are using a bunch of magic, and we see like this whole, as you call it, like clan or like tribe of vampires that they're kind of like having like some sort of a ritual, and they're all kind of like you can tell they're kind of like doing their own thing, and it shows a lot of fighting, but that's kind of it. It doesn't really show too much, so it still kind of felt like a teaser, honestly, because like, okay, I get it, it's gonna be Richter and his people using their magic and skills to fight all of these aristocratic vampires and all that, but like, who's the main bad guy? Is Dracula going to return? Are we going to see any of the characters from the other series? Don't really know. It's just kind of like, okay, more vampire ass kicking. Okay, cool. But yeah, it feels like we don't really know what the plot is, so it's kind of funny that it's supposed to be like the main trailer, but I didn't really like see much to tell me like, I understand what's gonna happen. It just kind of felt like, okay, I kind of have like a basic idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is weird.
It's not like I know like who like the main antagonist is, or like
You don't, bro.
who these vampires are that are like they said, they're kind of doing their thing. It's kind of just like vampires versus Richter and his like vampire hunters, I guess. Which not that's a bad thing. I mean, it might be kind of cool to, okay, let's just watch it. I guess we'll obviously we'll see the story as it goes. But kind of I thought there was gonna be more, which is just, I thought it was kind of funny that like, yeah, I felt like it was still kind of teasery, where I feel like I don't really like I'm still kind of going into it like, okay, like what's happening though? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But it's from what they showed, it looked pretty cool. Richter seems like he's gonna be a cool protagonist, I guess. And yeah, all the people using like their magic and stuff definitely looks like they're trying to kind of evolve, or like in the other one, it was Trevor who was like the fighter, and Sypha was the one who used magic. It looks like here a lot of people are like kind of combining the two things together and stuff. So that's kind of cool.
so that is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, this is another thing that if you watch the little trailer or like read the description, it apparently is gonna premiere on September 28th. So yeah, that's really soon. That's like just a few weeks away, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, and they're streaming it on the 27th, which I'm not really sure how that's gonna work. It says live stream on the 27th. Don't know how it's gonna work. So I'm just kind of going with like the premiere date. It's the 28th. But yeah, that's like pretty close by. So it's like again, like, that's we're spoiled for stuff this season. Like I said, we just have a whole new Castlevania thing dropping pretty soon. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that. I really want to watch that. And like I said, hopefully it does as well as the first series did, because the first series was pretty good. I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. So I hope it lives up to that, you know?
Yeah.
Finally, the last news story. This time I chose to do four of them. Once again, it doesn't really say much. It's more of just like an announcement of like, hey, this thing is happening. As the title states, Hayao Miyazaki's The Boy and the Heron film opens in North American theaters / IMAX on December 8th, with preview screenings on November 22nd. So
Nice.
yeah, Miyazaki, every time he says he's gonna retire, he says it's my last film. I swear at this point, like his whole catalog is gonna be his last film, right? Because he just keeps saying that. He's gonna have more last films than like official films at this point, honestly, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, again, suppose this is his last film. And yeah, it's called The Boy and the Heron, which I think is supposed to be like a type of bird, maybe
It's a
fish.
bird, yeah.
It's a bird, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, basically, as it says here, it's going to premiere in North America on December 8th. There's going to be like special preview. I guess it's like for the press and stuff or something like that on November 22nd. And there's like a little trailer that, of course, looks pretty cool, as you would expect from Studio Ghibli and stuff. And besides that, I think they kind of said, if you read the story, that there's supposed to be like a film festival in New York, and it's going to take place from September 29th to October 15. And I guess this film is going to kind of kick off the film festival. And I think that's basically it. I don't know if it says when. Oh, and the other thing that's really interesting, that was the other thing I want to mention, that it came out in Japan on July 14. And that, yeah, it's pretty interesting. It says that the film earned more money in its first 4 days than Spirited Away. I mean, it earned more in its first 4 days than all of like Spirited Away did. I guess like in its whole, I don't know if like its whole run is what it's what you're alluding to.
Yeah.
And then it says it earned 50% more than his 2013 film, The Wind Rises. So, yeah, I guess what it's kind of just trying to say is that it's basically doing really good. It's doing good commercially, like box office, and it's supposed to be doing really good in terms of like the attention it's getting, I guess. So that's pretty cool. That's actually really
That
exciting.
is pretty cool.
Yeah, I really would like to watch this when it comes out. I mean, so I'm excited for that. Studio Ghibli movies, I feel like they're always really special. They're always really good, with like a few exceptions. There's some that are a little bit weaker. So I would like to watch that. I'm excited for that. So, near the end of the year, that's coming out, and I would definitely like to watch it. That sounds pretty cool. Man, IMAX would be really cool to watch a Studio Ghibli film. That'd probably be like really
It
special.
really would.
That would be really cool. But there you go, guys. If you enjoy Studio Ghibli movies, it's pretty cool to know that, the old man is still kicking. He's still making movies. They're still doing well. And like I said, it just makes me laugh. Who knows if this is his last film, because he always says that. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. And that is it. That is the news stories. As I promised, they're really short. They're more of like a, hey, this thing is happening, keep an eye out for it sort of thing. So they were pretty easy to breeze through. But I still think that those were some pretty good news stories. That's why I was kind of excited to talk about them, because I think that they are announcing some really good stuff that is coming out. Two of them really soon. The other two, they're kind of like farther away. We don't really know what's going to happen with them. But it's some stuff that sounds really interesting. So I was kind of like, I really want to share these and, keep an eye out for them. And hopefully people listening, hopefully they feel the same way,
Yeah.
So for our last segment, which is the topic of the week sort of thing, that we always try to talk about something that we kind of recommend, something that we enjoy, that sort of thing. Since we just mentioned Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli as our last news story, I thought that we could close it off by saying which is our favorite Studio Ghibli movie, and kind of encourage people to go check them out. And I think we could do one each. So what do you think? Do you have one that you would like to share with people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have
Cool.
one.
Yeah, cool. Go ahead then.
Let me pull it up. I know this one especially because I actually had seen it recently, not that like a few years back, and ever since then, it's actually had a very special place in my heart. We actually mentioned it earlier
I was
too.
about to say that was the funny that there was some foreshadowing, which is kind of funny, like if you pay
Hmm.
attention. Yeah, so go ahead.
Um,
What is it?
it's actually The Wind Rises,
Which we
which we
just
just
mentioned. So
mentioned.
that's pretty funny.
Exactly.
There you go.
I love it a lot. I think it's a very, I don't know, man. Like it has a very like it pulls my heartstrings a lot. It's pretty sad, but you know, and I'll explain why in a bit. But I don't know, man. I just love the movie a lot. I like the little art direction. If you were to like look at the poster, which is supposed to be like it shows that it's like basically like a field where like you see like a bright blue sky and it's like a grass field. um Everything's very bright and it pops out at you and it looks really nice. And the reason why I say this movie's really sad and it has like a special place is that it's actually a fictionalized biographical film about this guy named Jiro Horikoshi, who was a designer of a plane back in World War II. And he used to, those planes, he basically made them for like the Empire of Japan during World War II. And it's basically a whole film about his journey from when he was young and, him wanting to grow up to be a designer and engineer. And then like when he meets his wife and like he falls in love with her, but then like stuff happens and it gets like really sad afterwards. And then because even though he worked with like the empire to kind of like make said plane, he basically did was the way World War II was going, he didn't like it. Like he thought that basically for a war it felt like it was pretty crappy. And so he was pretty disappointed in himself because he felt like he was the reason that everything had kind of gone wrong. And so like it's this whole thing where you just see this man like kind of lose it at the end. And like, yeah, it's like a really sad movie. And honestly, man, like I'm saying, like it goes from really bright to really like crappy at the end. But I definitely recommend it because like once you get to the end, you're gonna end up crying.
Yeah, there's some that are like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they get very yeah.
Yeah, Studio Ghibli movies, they definitely can do that. I was gonna say fun fact because since you said we're gonna talk about it, I kind of pulled it up to see if there was like any interesting little tidbit to talk about. One of them, as you said, is that yeah, it's kind of fun that it's a it's like based on someone, so it's kind of like
Mhm.
a what do you call it? You just said it earlier. It's a fictionalized. It's like a fictionalized biography of the guy, so that's kind of interesting.
Mhm.
It's kind of fun because in the English dub, he is actually played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt as an
Mhm.
adult, and as a kid, he's actually played by Zach Callison, who is the voice
Of Steven
of
Universe.
Steven Universe. So I thought, like, oh,
Mhm.
that's kind of a fun
Yeah.
yeah. And then if you look at the cast, the English dub cast, yeah, there's all sorts of really famous people. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Emily Blunt, John Krasinski, Martin Short,
Mhm.
like all sorts of people, Elijah Wood.
Mhm.
There's all sorts of people where it's like, damn, they had like a lot of like really famous actors for the dub, which is really
Mhm.
cool. It makes sense though, because this came out in 2013.
Mhm.
So, by this time, it's not like films in the past where maybe it was harder to get better dubs and get more like bigger people out there. More recently it's become like easier and easier and there's more attention put to like dubs and stuff, you know what I mean? So it kind of makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you guys have it. So your favorite is The Wind Rises from 2013. and so that's the one you recommend. Pretty cool. So as he said, it's a fictionalized biographical film of an actual guy who created aircrafts and stuff. So that's kind of cool. And yeah, definitely one of those stories that goes from starts like kind of really positive and cheerful, and it kind of gets really sad, which is like oof. So it pulls at your heartstrings, but definitely recommended. As for me, the one that I would recommend for people to watch, I know it's kind of basic, but I just really love this film. And so, yeah, I just really love it. So, I just recommend it, even though a lot of people might have already watched it. If they haven't, just either watch it again, or if you haven't watched it, then go watch it because it's really good. My favorite, Studio Ghibli film is Spirited Away. So
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so 2001 Spirited Away. I think it's really good. I think it's like a really fun watch. And yeah, just to give you like a basic synopsis. So there's this little girl named Chihiro. She's 10 years old. Basically, it starts that she's with her parents in like she's in the back seat, her parents are in the front, and it's like they're moving somewhere new, and she's upset because she doesn't want to move to her new neighborhood or whatever. And as they're driving, they decide to stop at what is it? It's like an amusement park or something. I think it's like an amusement park or something. So they stop to like, let's stop and rest, and let's hang out for a while, whatever. And she doesn't want to, but her parents like, oh, come on, let's stop and let's just hang out for a little bit. And so they convince her to go into the amusement park, which is abandoned. And yeah, it's abandoned, so that's kind of weird, And her parents start eating the food, and Chihiro's kind of like, against it. She's like really doesn't want to be there. And sure enough, after they're eating the food, her parents turn into pigs. And as for her, she gets dragged into the spirit world. And that's what's called Spirited Away, because Spirited Away means like when spirits like pull you over to like their side or whatever. And yeah, so basically it's about this little 10-year-old girl and how she gets spirited away. And in order to free herself and her pig parents, she starts working at this bathhouse that belongs to this witch. And it's all about her experiences in the bathhouse and, working for and among all these like spirits and stuff. And so it's pretty fun because it has like a lot of like folklore stuff and fantasy stuff. Like there's, commies, there's like a witch, there's all sorts of other little like creatures from folklore. There's like a dragon, all sorts of stuff kind of mixed together. And it's just like this really fun movie. And I really like it. I think it's really cool. It definitely has like some deeper themes if you check it out. Doesn't I would say it's more on the lighthearted side, not to say it doesn't have some stuff, but it is more lighthearted, compared to like the one you picked. I think this is more like adventurous and like fantasy and fun. Though it does have its serious moments. And yeah, it's just really good. And some interesting facts about this one is that it has been called one of the greatest films of all time. It actually won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature at the 75th Academy Awards. As we mentioned earlier, or at least it was kind of alluded to, it was the highest grossing film in Japanese history until the record was broken 19 years later by the Demon Slayer movie, the one on the train. And I don't know if the implication, that's where I think the implication might be that new Ghibli film, I don't know if it has like the new record or whatever, because how it said like, oh, it outgrossed, this film in like the first 4 days. So I don't know if like that one has the record now. I don't know what that means, but that aside, yeah, this one was the highest grossing film in all of Japanese history for like 20 years. So think about that. That's really crazy. This film came out in 2001. So it had the record for a long time. So yeah, it's just definitely one of those movies that's like really special. For it to be like that well regarded, have made that much money, for it to have that much of an impact too, where for a lot of people in the West, it was like one of the first like anime films they watched. Like it really helped expose people to anime because it was it was like how can I explain it? Like Disney helped to like what would you say, like distribute it, I guess is what you could say, right? Like they helped distribute it or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And then they helped with like the dubbing and stuff too, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing they did, yeah.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like, damn, like this movie is pretty special and it has like a big legacy. And so that's why that's the one I recommend. I say that it's like a really good film, really fun. It's not even very long, it's like a pretty easy watch. I think the film is only
Mm-hmm.
like it's like maybe 2 hours. You know what I mean? It's like maybe two
Mm-hmm.
hours, but it feels like it like flies by. So it's really good. And I say check it out. Like there's a reason that if you've heard about it before, there's a reason for it. You know what I mean? As I'm saying, if you
Mm-hmm.
haven't watched it, go watch it. I definitely recommend it. And if you have watched it, watch it again. It's a fun way to watch
Mm-hmm.
anytime. So
I haven't seen that Spirited Away in a long time. I probably need to check it out again.
yeah. Yeah, it's been a bit since I've watched it too. I think I watched it when it first hit Max, because you know how like at the time it was still HBO Max or whatever. Because you know how
Mm-hmm.
like they have the Ghibli films on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it when it like first hit, so that would have been like a bit ago. I wouldn't mind watching it again. Like I said, the Ghibli films are awesome; they're fun. So
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't mind watching it again, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So there you go, guys. Those are our recommendations because we're just going with like our top movie each.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just one of those things where if you've heard of these films and haven't watched them, or any Ghibli film, but for that matter, I was gonna say, just as we're mentioning these two, that doesn't mean we're not saying don't watch the other ones. Like the other ones are also really good. Like My
Yeah.
Neighbor Totoro's a classic.
Mm-hmm.
Ponyo's really good.
Ponyo's really good, yeah.
Freaking Grave of the Fireflies, I think is even sadder than
Oh,
the
I've
is
heard.
it's
Mm-hmm.
even sadder than the one you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Hell's Moving Castle's good.
Oh,
Secret World of
yeah.
Yeti is really well done.
That's what I mentioned, actually.
Like,
Ariety. Mm-hmm.
yeah, bruh, like almost all of the films are like
Really
awesome.
good. Mm-hmm.
So just as we mentioned, like probably our favorite each, that doesn't mean don't watch the other ones, because the other ones are also like excellent. And yeah, that's kind of the point. Just, if you have not watched these films for some reason, go check them out, track them down. They're worth watching. They're really good, and they're just like fun watches. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
almost all of the films are like classics and like A pluses. There's
Yeah.
only there's like very few that you would be like, they're not that great. There's like a couple
Yeah,
here
there's
and
very
there
few.
that are kind of more you know what I mean? But I don't know. I think even like the ones that are meh are still pretty good. Like they just
Mm-hmm.
fall short compared to like the really good ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. So there you go. Check out Miyazaki's films. Check out the Studio Ghibli stuff. Keep an eye out for the stuff that we mentioned during the news stories. I recommend watching the stuff that I watched. I say go check it out. I know Legend of Jonathan probably would like some of you to also play Fall Guys and stuff. He probably
Mm-hmm.
recommends that as well.
I definitely do.
So very strong podcast this week, full of all sorts of stuff that I would say check it out, or at least keep an eye on it, for the future. And yeah, that brings us to the end of the podcast. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys had fun. I think this is a really good episode. I think there's like a lot of stuff to, like look forward to, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, we are spoiled for stuff. So there's probably even more stuff to talk about next week. At least I hope so, because,
Mm-hmm.
I always just love, gushing about stuff I love and stuff. So we will try our best to be back next week. We'll see how that goes. If possible, we'll be here. We'll have new stuff to talk about as always. And one last thing. Hopefully, there's a rumor that there might be a Nintendo Direct. Let's see if that happens. That would be really cool to talk about as well.
That would really be cool.
Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
I've heard some rumors here and there. It's not confirmed, but there's some rumors. So it would be really fun if by this time, next week, we have a direct to talk about. That would be really fun.
That would be really fun.
Yeah, but that aside, we will see you guys next time. Have a good one. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.